your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what, good to say I dabbled in stand-up for something. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Hello. Yes, it's me. I'm back in my little podcasting corner. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. We're everywhere. Twitter, Twitch, even Rumble, Rockfin. I think I mentioned those. Exciting to be back after more than a week away. We did the Poconos Content House with a 48-hour live stream with some of my friends and favorite YouTubers out in Pennsylvania. And then I went straight to Turning Point USA's America Fest out in Phoenix. Never even been to Arizona before. And that was a great, 4 days of just, and now America is saved. That's all. Everything's fixed. We fixed all the problems of the country. A lot of great photo ops, met a lot of great people, did a lot of live streaming. I'm exhausted now, but it's good to be back. Before I bring in my fabulous guest, I have a couple of stand-up shows to mention to all of you. I will be, if you're in New York City, next Wednesday, 1 week from today, Wednesday, December 27th, I will be at Stand Up New York, part of Gino Bisconti's birthday show. It'll be myself, Gino Bisconti from Compound Media, and one of my lovely openers, Keanu Thompson, will be there. Very funny. Most people on the show are funny. So if you're in the New York City area, I better see you guys there. And then I'll be headlining in San Diego Friday, January 5th and Saturday, January 6th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club out there in San Diego. I will be joined by the hilarious and travel-sized Lila Hart. Come see us there. Then I'll be headlining in Dallas Thursday, January 25th, back at Hyenas in Dallas. Yes, this is the comedy club where I had the trans heckler moment, the land whale viral moment happened at this very club. So it'll always have a special place in my heart. It's one of my absolute favorite places to perform. I think Lila and Keanu will be joining me on that show. That's Thursday, January 25th. And then I'll be probably not allowed to fly anymore because I'll just be so gigantic that the stewardesses will not let me onto the plane. So I'll do a show in Jersey, February 24th. I think that's a Saturday, out in Tiff's in Morris Plains, New Jersey. I should get the tickets for up for that soon. I'm sure they're up by now. Yeah, you actually need a doctor's note to fly if you're a certain degree of pregnant. It's an exciting journey. All of this is. Okay. So excited to have this guy on the channel today. He's a member of Friday Night Tights along with yours truly. He has an incredible YouTube channel where he does reviews about news, television, movies, pop culture, really anything that's important. This guy is talking about it. And he's just so good. He's I love watching him just absolutely eviscerate celebrities and people who need their egos checked. So welcome to the show, Disparu.
Yeah, it's weird. My channel is like the ultimate example of sort of the English nature that if somebody needs to be brought down a peg or two, that's what I enjoy. Some people like watching really great entertainment. I prefer to find the dregs of it and then just laugh. That's way better. I was actually disappointed yesterday because I was watching, what was the new Disney Plus show? Completely boring, but it was like average, and so I couldn't get any entertainment out of it. But if it was terrible, if it was Robin Hood and the director kicked off about how great it was when it was really awful, that's like gold to me.
it's so funny because I hear mixed reviews on, oh, like we shouldn't be subscribed to Disney Plus, meaning like the Friday Night Tights folks or anybody who's reviewing this stuff. Oh, we should just all be unsubscribed. Because I remember, especially in particular, after Gina Carano was fired, there was understandably just kind of a boycott of Disney Plus. Well, everyone needs to unsubscribe. How could they? Which I understand, and I love Gina, and I think what they did is still one of the most ridiculous moves, where they really kind of the mask slipped off a bit too much. But I guess I want to know, like, where do you stand on that? Because it's like, if we don't review it, if we don't watch these things, if we don't go out and see these movies and review them, I think potentially we're saving everybody else a lot of time. And I wonder your feelings on that. And then I also, because I hear this a lot, a big critique of, and you'll see this sometimes in the comments or in the chat, like of Friday Night Tights is, oh, you guys are just always negative on everything.
I am, but that's because I do it deliberately. Like, I choose the show. Look, the shows that I like, there is tweets where I've tweeted off, like, what shows do you actually like? So I just made them out. Then I realized they're all Korean. That's basically why. All the shows that I like nowadays are basically foreign TV shows, because they have values and cultures that are more like we used to be decades ago. And so they haven't been changed yet because the way I've always seen it is essentially this culture comes from America. You exported it around the world via movies and TV shows and stuff. And you can tell that via a lot, especially when it comes down to, well, you've seen the latest, the movie about the magical, which I'm not even sure I can say.
The magical Negroes, yes.
Well, that's the thing. But I don't know whether I can say that, because that would be fine to say here, because it's just a Spanish word for black. But in America, I don't know what your culture is, so I don't know whether I can say it, but it's not of my culture. And so I get exported ideas from America to here, which I have no idea whether they're valid or not. I just know that essentially YouTube, Twitter, and all they're governed by American rules, and so I have to bear your culture in mind whenever I say anything. Now, when it comes to Korea, because of the language barrier and a lot of it's based around different definitions, it takes longer to go over there and translate into those cultures, and they don't have the same basis around like black versus white kind of thing that America does. It doesn't make any sense in South Korea, where they're all just Korean, and so they still come from a more traditional entertainment background of values, so they make traditional entertainment that used to be good. And so yeah, I like stuff, but I don't talk about it because I don't find it that entertaining. I think there's more to say about bad entertainment.
It took me years to realize the effect of Hollywood and the United States, like just media and culture, has on the rest of the world. Like I guess I'm not out of the country too often, but I just was like, we're not that important. I figured every country had
America
their own
rules
Hollywood.
the world, essentially. You go around everywhere. You even
I'm
export
like, are we?
You export culture to China.
I'm like, we're on the downturn. I think we're coming back down. I just figured every country has their own Hollywood, has their own stars. And then, God, I got to thinking, like, wow, you see the real international release of all our top films, most of them. And then you start hearing like, oh, well, they had to take this black person out of this movie poster. They had to like rechange. And it's like, wow, they had to take out the lesbian kissing scenes out of this scene for these countries. And you're like, oh, wow. But, and I just don't understand why it got this way. Like, why?
Those are countries where they have a large enough audience that Hollywood will make changes specifically for them. Whereas the UK does have a film industry. We have all the sets and everything, but all they make are American movies. It's just Hollywood moves over here because we're cheaper and we'll give you tax breaks. So we just make your stuff. Now, Korea has its own entertainment industry. They only sell to Netflix. They were recently complaining that Netflix owns the entire South. Like, everybody makes stuff and then tries to sell it to Netflix.
Oh, wow.
But because it's only Netflix and Netflix doesn't make things, they just buy other people's stuff, they can still make things for their local culture, and Netflix goes, okay, I think that's good, I think that's good, I think that's good. Whereas the UK industry, we make stuff for your studios. So like Amazon is making Rings of Power over here, but we have no control over it. It's literally Amazon, the company, is just using us as a space.
You're being used. A good example is the recent Squid Game reality show that I just binged, and I figured,
Yes.
oh, this is
Lots
an
of lawsuits.
English speaking show, and then I watched the making of the Squid Game reality show, and it was shot in a big sort of warehouse somewhere in the UK, because at the end they go, we're
It was an
casting.
aircraft.
It was an
It was an air
aircraft
hangar.
carrier, because at
No,
the
it
end
was
it
the
was
air
like,
hangar.
oh my god,
That's why
massive.
it was so cold. They're getting sued because they got well, a couple of people apparently got frostbite because it's English weather, which is
way.
cold, and they just had them in the normal Squid Games gear. So yeah,
They just
they're
had these
actually
little jumper like sweatsuits.
yeah, and Netflix like no, health and safety is our primary concern. Meanwhile, it's sub-freezing temperatures in just a metal shed essentially with no heating. And they made them make stretch positions for hours in sub-zero temperatures.
Maybe the fact that it was so freezing in there just brought out the worst in everyone. Because I'm like, damn, like these are prison conditions. Everyone immediately split up by race. The women were immediately. I was like, I love that they featured this in the show. And who knows? I didn't if they caught the men talking shit about the women, they just didn't put it in the show. But there were so many moments where like it was either these lesbians or like these angry black women, like sorry to stereotype, but like that's what they showed on the show, being like, I'm triggered by just the presence of these strong men or these strong, like what straight white men. To look at them scheming, and it'd just be like two guys talking about their kids or something, or talking about we miss our families. They're like, oh, this is very triggering to see these men together. And they purposely, well, not to spoil the show, but they purposely kind of, all the women at one point formed an alliance just because, we have the same bits in our pants, and that's the only reason to stick together. And then the men, there was one final kind of choosing round. A couple of the men got on board, like, oh, I like what's happening here. I'm going to keep choosing, women to go forward. And it's like, they're not doing that to support women. Like, they know that y'all are weaker and they want to have a better shot at winning, especially the physical challenges. It's like, they're not trying to do equality. They're just like, great, let's get the strong men out of the running.
That's what's good about Korean entertainment. Korean entertainment is good because it makes humans act like humans. And you can see this from Alice in Borderland. You can see it in Squid Game, where the women will use their bodies in order to survive in a life and death situation. This is just something that would happen. We know it throughout all of history. We've seen it in every place on Earth. And for some reason, nobody's supposed to notice this. And we're all just supposed to think that everyone lives in a utopian society. So you have Hollywood where it's like, no, these people can all do this. Of course, some 4-foot woman can beat up a 6-foot bloke. It's like, no. And that brings you out of the movie because of it if you don't make a rule in your universe where you can. If she wants to be a 4-foot genetic mutant who has super strength, I have no problem as long as it fits the rules. But if she's just a normal person, everybody knows that's stupid. And Koreans, the Korean shows and the Japanese shows and all that kind of area will make TV shows where people play into their strengths. And we both know that men and women have different strengths, different people have different strengths. But it makes it more believable. And that draws you in, which makes you care about the characters more, and so you like it more. One of the criticisms that I've seen about the Rebel Moon, which is out in a couple of days, is that it's just a series of action scenes, but all of the characters are cardboard cutouts. And that's because nobody got drawn into the movie to care about those individual characters. Whereas, and you see in the trailer, it is literally some tiny, weedy person who couldn't even beat up me is taking on 5 blokes. I'm like, if you can't beat me up in an action movie, you shouldn't be in an action movie. And I think that's a general problem that the West has, is that they don't make movies which are believable. They make them how they would prefer the world to be. And Russell T. Davies has recently said this about history. Like, we don't care what history was. We want to look back and we will make Isaac Newton a different person because that's how history would have been better. It's like, no, history's fixed. That's how it is. That's how things should be because that's how it was. And if you change things, then nobody cares because you take people out of reality. And you can argue that escapism is what you want from it, but you have to obey the rules of the universe. And so when you use historical characters, if you change them, it just doesn't work. And it's like they can't differentiate the idea of It's a common
Right.
thing.
The difference between escapism, because you could make the argument that, like, well, isn't it just movies, entertainment? They're there for us to have escapism. Couldn't you say having a black Little Mermaid is a form of escapism for a certain group, or having Rachel Zegler as Snow White completely redefining the role, everything she said in her public appearances. Well, isn't that a form of escapism for like a half Latina, the half Latina community?
Oh, yeah, the half Polish.
The half Polish community.
I will never understand why she. Well, I will understand why she never says that she's Polish. Like, she's as much Polish as she is Latina.
I don't
but
think
we
she's ever
talk about
mentioned
that.
it.
We don't talk about that because it's not beneficial within Hollywood. And the moment you do that, it's like, well, I'm really proud of being Latina. It's like, yeah, but all the Latinas are saying you're not Latina. And then you're saying, well, that doesn't matter. When she was doing West Side Story, all the Puerto Ricans were like, yeah, but can we have like a Puerto Rican actress? We got loads of Puerto Rican actresses. They could fulfill this role. And she's like, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, yes, I was born in America. My mother's Colombian and my father was Polish. And I'm now playing a Puerto Rican, but it doesn't matter that I'm not Puerto Rican. I'm still representing you. And they get Snow White, which is like, well, why does representation matter? And this is the you have multiple times where, on the one hand, she will say representation is really important. I'm Latina. I'm representing this group. And on to that group, she's going, yeah, but I don't need to represent you because I'm not you. It is so bizarre.
This was such an amazing video. If you guys haven't watched it, go to Disparu's channel on YouTube and watch his Rachel Zegler, Halle Berry explain Disney's failure. And you perfectly, you're so brutal in your honesty, and you break down their interview. It's Rachel Zegler and well, it's Halle Bailey. I keep saying Halle Berry. Halle Bailey, the Black Little Mermaid, interviewing Rachel Zegler, and you're commenting. You're basically like, yeah, all they're doing is complimenting each other, patting each other on the back, be like, you're so beautiful, you're so brave. I cried every time you spoke, which is much different from typically a journalist would interview them. Or maybe this is to make up for the fact that she spoke with too many journalists and she was too honest, and she screwed up a lot of her. Like, I think of this is kind of iconic. Everyone kind of saw this interview where she was like, yeah, the princess isn't going to save her. Who knows? Maybe all the prince's scenes will be cut out. Who knows? And you're like, well, this doesn't sound at all like Snow White. And
journalists deliberately get them in trouble. Like, they will,
because they want the clip. It's like, do they
Yes.
want to make the actors look bad, or do they just
Yes.
know what's going to get a lot of
100%.
clips?
Well, they just want views on their website. And so you see them in the clips where she's like, yeah, weird. And then you hear a journalist in the background, yeah, it's very weird, isn't it? It's very weird. Like, go on, say something else. Say something we can clip. Get us a quote. And they just agree. I think you could say anything to a journalist. Like, no matter how deranged it was, they'd just be like, yeah, I completely agree. Go on. Say something else. And so it definitely doesn't help. But you still have the point about individual responsibility, where she's the person saying it, she's the person believes it. And so even if she's getting egged on, even if she's doing it because somebody's encouraging her to say it, that's what she thinks. And you've seen it in West Side Story. The moment somebody kicks off, she starts to attack them. But the moment she's talking to somebody else who's neutral, oh, it's so important, representation. I think this is amazing. There was actually a case where she couldn't get into an award ceremony. And so social media kicked off, how dare you not allow, like, the first Latina actress to represent these people into this award ceremony? And she ended up, in like a week, presenting something at that awards.
Wow.
So she gets into positions on red carpets via identity alone. And that's one of the clips that I have. It's just like, I never thought I'd be here. Dreams really can come true really fast too. And that is because she wasn't supposed to be there at the time. And when, like, all the clips about, yeah, this is the story of representation and it matters, is because it allowed her to get into a position she couldn't normally. And I think that's horrific. I don't care who's in what role. I don't care really what you do. If it's a historical figure or a figure with a source material, I think you should respect that. Like, I think James Bond should be a Brit, because James Bond is British.
And a dude.
Well, exactly. So Harry Potter, one of the reasons that people like Harry Potter, that was absorbed into Harry Potter, is because it was a British school full of British people. And so if you had foreign actors in, it wouldn't have been British, and it wouldn't have created the environment that it did in the movie. And it was J.K. Rowling that said everybody that acts in this needs to be British because it's a British school, and it wouldn't make sense otherwise, given the time period and where it's set. I think
What
that's
about
fine.
no exchange students, Disparu? No,
Well, exactly.
no migrants who can't speak English.
You played Hogwarts Legacy. We had someone from like Zimbabwe as a teacher, and it's like, where did she go when it came to the movies and the law and the books? It's like you can't go back in time and change things that then just vanish. Rings of Power. There's always the question, what happened to them because they weren't in the movies or the books?
Wow.
And they don't care about the timeline. They take the Davis attitude of, we will look back in history and imagine it how we think it would have been better. It's like, yeah, but what if it isn't? That's just your opinion, and it doesn't make sense. And the more things don't make sense, the less people care about something.
It's like the movie and culture TV equivalent of just knocking down statues you don't like and having them carted away, or I'll never forget, we were trying to order calendars for
See, I think
for
that's
the
horrific.
for the holidays. I can't stand it. I'm like, in a sense, God, they are a little bit changing history. They're doing their best. We're trying to order these calendars for our family for making these collage calendars, and I don't know if it was Vistaprint, but one of them just straight up did not have Columbus Day listed as a holiday anymore. I think it just had Indigenous Peoples
See, I don't
Day.
know anything about
And I
your
was like,
holidays. It's like Columbus over here.
But they straight up took a holiday out of the calendar, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
we can't use this company. It was insane though. I'm like, it's slowly but surely chipping away at history, just because the old people remember, and we kind of roll our eyes and go, well, this doesn't, but the new people really don't. It's
Well,
a little
that's the thing.
scary.
I remember when you had like the riots over there, it tried to filter through to other countries, and it didn't really make it, because we have different cultures and values, and so what you use is like, well, this is the reason for this. Doesn't make sense anywhere else in the world, but because you're just such a sort of a powerful nation that controls the internet, essentially, it still tries. And we had groups that were still taking down the statues and stuff over here for various different things,
Wow.
especially in the universities. But there was one that I remember was just in a city, and people knocked it down and threw it into a canal. And it was for the most arbitrary reason, but it's like you're literally trying to change history. And the only reason I can think why anyone wants to do that is because when you have tradition, you can iterate on it and improve it into the future. Whereas if you want a revolution, if you want to literally change everything, you have to get rid of everything that came before. And the arrogance of it is, if you imagine where you are in time, every single thing that happened before you throughout all of history, every single person contributed their little bit of wisdom into where you are. Whereas now you're going, I don't care about that. I'm
Exactly.
22. I know better than everyone else that's ever lived combined.
My
And so
life is
this
more
the way
important.
It should be.
My
Yeah,
life
exactly.
is more important than everyone else. My beliefs, my values, trump everybody else's. And I've become more and more aware, like especially just how you broke down Rachel Zegler here. It's not about like the diversity inclusion movement in Hollywood and everywhere else. It's ultimately, it's not about representing the group, right? Because even Rachel Zegler, you have a clip here in this video where you're like, I don't need, she's basically saying, I don't really speak the language. I don't really eat the food. She's
Yeah.
only half whatever Latina. I don't even know what kind of Latina she is, but she's only half. She never mentions that she's Polish.
She's not Puerto Rican at all.
Puerto Rican, right. And it's not about representing any type of community. It's just Hollywood going, great. Well, now these people in Hollywood have the leg up. Now, if you're Black, gay, trans, Hispanic in Hollywood, guess what? It's your time to shine. And like, well, screw you, white people. Maybe you'll get another go in 50 or so years. It's not about, no, it's you. It's these actors are just out for themselves at the end of the day. They don't care about representing anything.
I have never heard an actor. I've never heard an actor who is from one of these preferred groups who has ever spoken out about another group. So, like, at no point has she ever gone, I think that we shouldn't have the dwarves in Snow White. She didn't say that. The dwarf said that we shouldn't have the dwarves in Snow White because they would have been competition for his job. And it
Ooh.
is such an unusual. One thing I don't think Americans realize is how isolated your culture is from the rest of the world. So you group people up into the categories. So you got like black, white, Latina, and it's not how the rest of the world does it. Like in Europe, everybody's white, and so like that's the ancestry of Europe. So it wouldn't make any sense. So we have English, Scottish, Welsh, French, German, and to say that I'm German would be bizarre. Like the Germans would reject it,
Right.
I would reject it. It's the same thing when Americans go, "I'm Italian." It's like, well, you've never been to Italy. You've lived in
But you
America
gotta
your entire
try
life.
my mom's sauce.
Yeah, but you're like, for some reason I'm Italian. It's like, okay, it doesn't make sense to Italians, and I get that with this. Like she's going, I'm Latina. It's like, okay, so your mom is from a continent, so you're removed from it yourself. But then she goes, I represent this specific country. It's like, no, it would be like a German person saying they're me. It doesn't make any sense to the world, and
Right.
I don't know whether she understands that or whether I think it's more the fact that she's grown up throughout a culture where throughout all of Hollywood, every role she's got is because she was of a group, and so she just thinks it's great. Everyone tells her it's
so
great.
true. My God, it's like I go around because you get used to it. You grow up in this country.
Yeah.
I go around saying I'm half German, I'm half Norwegian, but it's like I've never been to Norway. I've never been to
Yeah.
Germany. My dad's taught me zero German. Zero. We ate zero German food in our house growing up. Same thing. My grandma would make some Norwegian desserts and stuff, and like I have her old Krumkrage machine. Like it's hot. It's like super. It's like basically heavy metal. I almost broke my toe on it the other day cleaning up, but it's like, oh, I really have none of this culture in my life. So it's like it would be just like, yeah, your family used to it would be just as insane as you saying like, yeah, I'm German, but like no, you look, you sound like there's nothing German about you.
And that's the thing, we go off culture. And the easiest way to become part of a culture is to live inside the culture. So most Germans are German. Because that's the only thing they've ever known. And so I understand how it happens, but then you get somebody who's using the American view, which is like more general, to apply to a specific thing, and it doesn't work. Like her mom's Colombian, her dad's Polish, so what's that got to do with Puerto Rico? And yet, if I can get millions of dollars by saying I'm Puerto Rican, I'm going to say I'm Puerto Rican.
Of course.
If the Puerto Ricans have a problem with it, well, in which case you're just a bigot. And does it really matter if I'm part of your culture, part of your country, part of your food, part of anything else? I'm just going to say you're a bigot, and that should humiliate you enough to shut you up. And
Right.
For me, that's the most... the worst thing about it is... In the 90s and the early 2000s, I remember a wave where it was like, we need to get rid of shame. You shouldn't be shaming people. You shouldn't be judging people. And even now, you will see people that go, I'm going to say this thing, which is negative, but no judgment, right? You can do it. I think it's horrific. I think it's the worst thing in the world, but no judgment. It's like, yeah, judgment didn't go away. It's just one side kept doing it. And so she will say,
Yeah.
you can't judge me for being in this movie. But if you say anything about me being in this movie, I will judge you. I will shame you.
You're toxic. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how one side wins. They take away somebody else's weapons and use it as themselves. And I think that's what's happened in these interviews. It's just framed in a way where I'm the virtuous one when really it's all about greed and self-interest.
Right. Like, ooh, I can attach myself to one of these victim groups. And if you check me on it, well, how Hispanic are you? Well, there's a lot of different ways to be Colombian or Puerto Rican or whatever, and you can't tell me how to embrace my culture. Yikes! It used
Well,
to
that was
be
a strange thing. Like over here, Latino isn't a group. I've never met a Latino person in England, right? And then so I had to look into what it was, and I'm still not sure, to be honest, because it's so bizarre. It's like from South Africa, but they have to speak Spanish, but then they're not in South American, but they have to speak Spanish, but they're not in South America. They have to be specifically in North America while speaking Spanish, but being from South America. It's such a bizarre, fabricated group. I don't really get it.
yeah, and then and now it's like, God, my flight back from Phoenix, there were a bunch of migrants on my flight because I was flying into JFK, New York City, one of our wonderful sanctuary cities, even though there's no room left. And then it's like I'm at the point where I see like someone who looks like a migrant, and I just go, ugh. It's What a bad time to come to this country. Like, no, it's very unwelcoming. There was a guy, and like a couple of them like really stunk. This guy like was 2 rows behind me, like stunk and had like was using a hotel towel as like a blanket / coat. And I guess you can tell that they're migrants because they have this like telltale big plastic bag, which comes with like a phone, a charger, and like all their papers and stuff. And actually, Ashley St. Clair, who was at the same conference with me in Phoenix, she did a bunch of tweets, and one of her videos got like 18 million views or something by now. She's trying to take on Delta, just being like, because we know they're not doing little, if any, testing on these folks. I doubt they're requiring any kind of vaccinations, that they were all obsessed with having us have just a few years ago.
Oh, France has a massive problem with bed bugs at the moment.
What?
Yeah. There's loads of videos online on like the public transport of them just crawling the public transport.
It used to be, I remember going to the store with my mom in, I guess, the 90s, and she'd always pick up a National Enquirer, and it was exciting. I would like read them after she was done, and I'd be like, oh, because you get any little scrap of celebrity news, like, oh, here's them walking out of a store. Celebrities, they're just like us. Wow, here's them with their kids. You'd never see what their kids were like. You'd never see them in like a day-to-day, and you never really hear from them. So it was exciting. And now and I look at someone like Rachel Zegler, and I look at the interviews she did earlier on trying to promote Snow White, and I'm like, who is she trying to impress? Like, is she trying to impress the studios, like her boss? Is she trying to impress other actors? Is she trying to give what she thinks social media will praise her for? Or is this genuinely how she feels, or a combination?
See, it's the eternal argument. Is this person just doing what they're told, or do they genuinely believe it? I don't really think it matters. I think if you say something, that it doesn't really matter why you're doing it, unless somebody's there literally forcing you on pain of like, you'll get fired or something, then you don't really, if you're doing it voluntarily to try and please somebody, you're still responsible. You're the one that decided to do the action. So individual responsibility plays the part. So I don't really think it matters whether the studio's telling her to do it, or whether she's voluntarily doing it just because of this is what Hollywood does. Although, like, if I had to say why I think it was, I think that's it. I think essentially she got her roles because of what she is, not what she can do. And if you get that repeatedly, you begin to think that's important, because that's what everybody around you values. And so I think it's natural that you would not only think that, but the people who speak out against it, you think they're the tiny group, right? Only a few handful of bigots could think this, because every single person you've ever met throughout your entire career thinks the same. And so anyone that says anything different must be the unusual, they must be horrible. As she said in her interview, that was the interesting thing about the interview, actually. At the start, it was all like praising each other, and we should, isn't Disney great? And then at the end, it's like, yeah, but all the people that disagree with us, they're actually just really sad at home and miserable. Whereas I'm making a movie, and so I can understand why I've got a great life, but in their sad, miserable lives, they may speak out against me. And it's like, okay, you've not changed then, have you?
They don't hear themselves, and like they're both like, we have to have grace for these toxic fans online. Maybe they're just having a bad day.
I've got to be present in the moment and imagine that I'm just making a movie.
These thousands of comments, which all represent people having a bad day.
Yeah,
and I have good days because I am an important actress.
Well, it's the interesting thing about social media. People often talk about, social media changed this, social media affected things, social media destroyed certain people. It's like, it didn't. This is just the way people always were. It's just now you can see it. Now they're posting it. Now they're proud of it. Because they get likes, and those likes are all they need to keep saying more of it. And so it can encourage behavior. If you get rewarded for something, you're more likely to do it more. But if you're getting rewarded for saying something negative, it means enough people agree that you're getting rewarded for it in the first place. Like, if you say something completely deranged on social media, you will get destroyed. And so it's not going to reward things that other people don't also think. So I disagree when people go, social media isn't real life. It is. It's just a microcosm of it. And most people probably don't care. Most people aren't on Twitter. Most people don't post things religiously on Facebook.
I forget that all the time. Most people are not on Twitter every day me.
But the people that are on Twitter, that's their genuine beliefs. That's really what they think. And they're also the most active people who are influencing the opinion most because they're the ones saying it. That, like, Steve, who just goes to his job 9 to 5, comes home, plays Call of Duty, and then goes to bed, he's not influencing anything. And so if you have a platform where everybody on social media is deranged, but they're the only ones who are saying their opinions publicly, you will influence culture that way.
Yeah, just like if you look at, okay, well, the journalists, typical journalists are mostly left-leaning. Well, that's just who's doing journalism. That's just who is able to make it to these positions.
Oh, no,
and
it gets worse than that. Like, you've got human resources. I think most people, human resources, mainly a sort of female position. And so one thing that's changed in recent times is that rather than just hiring the best person for the job, they hire people who agree with them or that they like, or that they will go through your social media. If they go through your social media and find something they don't like, they're not going to hire you. And so they just hire people who agree with... This is how Hollywood has ended up exactly the same way. If you disagree with Hollywood, as you've seen with Gina Carano, you get fired. And so they only hire people that agree with them. And other people that disagree with them, who are also already in the job, see that, and they're like, well, I don't want to get fired. I'm just going to go along with it. And so you end up with everybody in every institution all agreeing with the same opinion.
Right. And I think of SNL and when I used to think that I almost had a shot, before you realize it's like, of course, the entertainment industry, just like many industries, it's about who you know, but the specific way in which writers and actors are cast for SNL, it's like you really have to be go to one of a few Ivy League schools. You really have to just either be coming up in a certain like type of improv school and know it's a very small. It really narrows down like the pool of who could get picked for that show is it's you have to have certain politics, you have to know certain people, you have to have you can't say certain things. And the perfect example is, oh my gosh, his name is escaping me because of pregnancy brain, but he was hired to do SNL.
Pregnancy brain. I need this excuse. This sounds like an amazing cure-all.
This is my like.
I've never heard that. That is genius.
I'm white and I have I'm not part of a victim group, so I've learned that I can. That pregnancy brain is I'm sorry, I'm white. Oh my God, Shane Gillis, thank you, and I fucking love Shane Gillis. He's the best. He was hired to do SNL, and someone who hates him, who doesn't, one of his trolls, someone who doesn't want to see him win, plucked out a random podcast episode where he says "chinks" and it does like a hilarious Asian accent, and then they fire him spectacularly.
I don't get the accent thing. Like, I don't understand. This is part of the American culture stuff that I don't get. It's like, oh, this is offensive, and everyone else is supposed to think it's offensive. Well, we do Irish accents, Welsh accents, Scottish accents all the time, and then suddenly, we can't do that anymore. What? Why? Why is acting like a person offensive? I don't get it.
No, because I don't get it either. It's never not going to be funny. Here's a couple super chats that I've been ignoring. From Frank, my beloved. This was to the topic of Disney from earlier. If F&T collectively said no more Disney Plus, it would make a massive impact on the culture war. Fans stay sub to be part of the F&T and Geeks and Gamers conversations and watch the same Disney Plus series. Right, so I guess so they can follow along with our commentary.
In my comment section all the time in every review, all you get is thanks for watching this so that I don't have to. Now, I know from other people saying it, they get the same kind of comments, but my reviews are very in-depth. It's like, if you watch one of my reviews, it's basically the entire episode. Like, you get the entire thing. Every scene is commented on. And so, it would be a replacement for the other. But the other hand is, I think the free market wins. If something is bad, people don't pay for it. Like, they work hard for their money, and that money needs to have a certain value, and that's essentially what giving someone money is. It's like, what you have provided me is worth the amount of effort that I took to earn this in the first place. And people aren't going to spend that effort or time on something that's awful. People don't subscribe to Disney Plus when they don't get something back from it. So it's like, would they pay money that may have taken them like an hour to earn just to keep up with something, or would they go elsewhere, or would they not even bother? I think we've reached a point where the shows are so awful, the movies are so awful, like, most of the people that watch FNT and they talk about like Aquaman. They're not going to have seen Aquaman by the time Friday comes out, but because they're never going to see it, it is so awful. Then
the eye candy.
well, yeah, it's probably why the first one was a success.
Yeah, probably.
Something Hollywood doesn't understand is like people actually will go because people look good in it. But yeah, because something is so awful, it not only saves them money, but they don't mind it's being spoiled because they don't care about it. And I don't think there's this huge amount of people that literally go, I watch this so I can watch you talk about it. I think the talking about it is more entertaining than the content, which says a lot about the entertainment industry, because that's not a high bar to beat somebody talking about your show, and they can't even meet that.
Oof. Okay, so you would say to this, there's enough Disney Plus is offering folks for them to generally stay subscribed.
Well, I think if the impact we were making is so massive, then Disney Plus would be profitable. They've lost $11 billion on Disney Plus since they started. Like, if we're helping, we're not helping very much. It's like it's that kind of thing. But like, I'm a big free market person, free trade of goods. It is very simple that if you make bad stuff, people won't pay for it, and I think that's shown in the profit and loss accounts of the companies.
True. I think it would be hard for. I don't see them being like, I see Gary be like, we're just not going to talk about it for a month or two, because it's what's going on. It's what's trending. John Durham, thanks for the super chat. Hate Disparu. What can you tell me about Doctor Who's hot new sidekick? She would almost get me to watch.
Depending on what country you're speaking from, you may be in for a surprise with her accent. It is very I watched a video on her today. It's like apparently she used to be in Coronation Street, even though I've not watched Coronation Street in ages. But she said in one of her interviews that she really liked Amy Pond. Now, everyone knows what Amy Pond was like. So it's probably where she's going, is the aim. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be just like her. Everything's changed. I'm not sure it's going to work the same. She's not Amy Pond.
Let me see. Let me get a picture of her. Is she the blonde?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Over here, we'd say the accent is very common.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And like I say, I watched somebody else's video. They kept bringing up the accent. So I know it affects, like, when Americans think of British accents, they don't think of this. She did an interview. I can probably pull it up if you want.
Let me find. What's the actress's name of the new sidekick?
I don't know her name. I'm not paid that much attention. But there was I can go on the Doctor Who channel and find you the video where there was a video a while ago. There was both of them talking about it. Where's this Sonic? Where's a new person?
I remember Rose Tyler. I watched a little bit a few years ago, only because an ex-boyfriend was into it.
Get to know Millie Gibson. This will probably she's talking in it. Obviously, it'll show her accent.
That's my favorite thing about British culture, is that you guys judge so harshly just based on wherever. We do it too.
No, but it's different here. Like I said before we started, in America you have this whole thing of anyone can become anyone. Like the lowliest peasant can become the prime minister, can become the president. But here, I'm never going to be royalty. I'm never going to be aristocracy. The Queen is never going to give me an OBE for talking about Disney, right? So I'm always going to be a peasant. And among that, you have accents tell you everything you need to know about where somebody grew up and their kind of level in society. People who go to Eton have a special accent specifically so that everybody else knows they're beneath them. That's the reason.
Really? And that's like a top. That's a college, right? Eton.
Well, it used to be. If you go back long enough, the sort of the rich they'd have spices and butter and chocolate and stuff, whereas the peasants wouldn't be able to afford it. But now everybody can afford stuff. So the accent, the received pronunciation accent, was deliberately made to separate the aristocracy from the peasantry. That's why they used to send them to finishing school and stuff, so that you would have the Oxford English, which would know I'm better than you, and you would know it immediately just by them talking.
Wow. Whereas in this country, like, I'm proud to be a Dunkin' Donuts person, like versus a Starbucks person. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I've leveled up.
yeah.
Flapper dance episode.
Oh, can you guys hear this?
She
Let's
is
see.
diving.
It's echoing
What
for
would
me. I
you
don't know if it's
have
them.
on your
Oh,
jukebox?
goodness.
I've got
For some reason, it's going through my thing and not my other thing. Okay, and this is Millie Gibson. She's cute.
Yeah.
She's
I
common.
mean, well, no, I'm saying the accent is common. There's a difference. I'm not saying she is.
Okay, I'm figuring this out.
Look, I would like, you are a product of your upbringing. My mum would just go, she's common as muck, like all the time. Whenever anyone would appear on she's common as muck.
Common as muck. I love that. Like if it's like the way we hate on people from like Jersey and Long Island and Staten Island. Versus
Yeah.
if you're like an Upper East Sider that's gone to private school. It's the same thing.
This is the thing. You're supposed to think that apparently now everybody's the same. Everyone's interchangeable and it doesn't matter any kind of difference between people. Whereas that's not how I was brought up. For me, it was very much, there was a societal hierarchy. And you had like from the peasant class to the royalty. And I don't know. I much prefer that than thinking everyone's the same.
I talked to Steph the Alternate a lot, and she's been on the channel a few times. She loves talking about the royals, and just like, and you mentioned this too. There's something about British culture where you enjoy building things and people up just to tear them
Yes.
down. I
Oh.
love this.
Our media has done that for decades, especially the tabloids. And you can see it coming. People can see it coming from a mile off, but they'll suddenly pick a celebrity that you've never seen before. Maybe he's just like a chef on a show or something, or he's a footballer. He's just got married, and he's the best thing since sliced bread. Everyone's doing it. Oh, we're going to focus on him all the time, and they get all the views, and then they find the views are tailing off, and they're like, yeah, but you'll never guess what he did in history. Oh, he's done this, he's offended all of you. And then they crush this guy. And so all of our careers are like rise and fall all the time. Some people ride it out. Most people don't. And there's a thing in English culture where if somebody compliments you, it's like the most awkward thing ever. You don't really know how to take it. And it's nearly always followed up by a self-deprecating joke. Probably specifically because if you rise too far, people will annihilate you until you get back down to where they think you belong.
I love that. Just checking everybody's ego. We need more of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've known from like enough streams with Americans are very sort of loud and brash, but it's also very confident. It's very we're the best. It's like America, yeah, freedom.
We
And
fake
England
it
are
till
like,
we make
yeah.
it a lot.
Well, yeah, but even so, it's just the attitude of it all. It's very enthusiastic. Whereas England and sort of Britain in general is sort of, you know, we used to be good, but we've lost it now. And that's where we like it. I always remember Lady Gravemaster started getting sorry for me because we didn't have a Thanksgiving. And I just said, we have nothing to be thankful for, and we like it that way.
You have no type of... Even Canada has a Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but I think it was to have it... I can't remember the reason why of Thanksgiving. But isn't it like the British are coming or something? It's like, it'd be understandable why we don't celebrate that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
We
us.
escaped. We escaped you guys.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. To you, it was the best day ever. To us, it was a Tuesday.
You're like, good riddance, bye.
Well, there are some people who say it was a lucky escape.
Okay, so I'm so jumping all over the place, but when you were breaking down the Rachel Zegler, Halle Bailey pregnancy braid interview, what do you attribute her switching gears into then now with Halle Bailey saying, well, yeah, I have to respect the fans, and I'm one of them, and she's much more toned down. She's more subdued. Again, it's like, is that her going, wow, I'm getting a lot of bad press, I need to change my tune? Or is it her handlers saying, you need to, I don't know, we're going to have a Halle Bailey interview, you just fucking sound normal? And is it enough?
I think it's a combination of things, because essentially, yeah, there was a massive backlash. And the positive of that was they were on strike at the time, so she couldn't respond. If she could have responded at that time, like, I'm sure it would have exploded to 10 times the size. But so it allowed everyone to have time to look at it and sort of analyze the situation and realize maybe we should do something about this. I even think because it was at D23, most of the interviews and some of the press tours for it. I think they were talking points that she was given because Gal Gadot was saying the same thing. She was saying it behind her. She just didn't say it as annoyingly or as confidently and didn't sort of extrapolate it on a much. So it never really hit the same thing. And also, we know her from previous movies, so I think she has a bit of
She didn't get nearly as much heat.
Yeah. But if you notice, there was things like she's not going to be saved by the prince, and then Rachel would dive in the way of like the bullet and go, she's not going to be saved by the prince, and we're going to delete all of his scenes. And so she kind of took the main force of it as Gal Gadot just kind of dropped the bomb and walked off. So I think there were definitely talking points. But like I say, I think this is Hollywood. Everyone they talk to all thinks it's the same thing. They genuinely think that's what people want to hear. They're not trying to piss people off. They just don't care if they piss the bigots off because they think they're a small enough audience that it won't change anything. And then they saw the backlash. And so now we suddenly realize this is massive. This was one of the biggest topics for weeks that happened during the strikes. And so it's going to make anybody take pause. The thing about the interview is, at the start, she started going, oh, I'm a big fan of Disney. I love everything they've made for the last 100 years. Directly contradicts stuff she said previously, which wasn't a talking point, because no one's going to give you a talking point about how you were scared about Snow White, and you saw it once, never watched it again. Like that, nobody's going to want you to say that. It's now like, no, I'm a big, massive fan. The issue is, at the end of it, she's still like, yeah, but I'm making a movie, though, and they're just unhappy, sad bigots. And so...
They're just peasants. They're just
well,
peons.
It's the way it came across. It's like, I'm sure they're... I'm so thankful. I'm so present. I'm sure they're having a bad day, whereas I'm making a movie. And I think that was meant to be her. I think that's probably as far as she can go. Of being like, oh, no, it's all fine. Like, she was genuinely trying to go, I don't care about any of this stuff. And it still comes across as that you're arrogant, egotistical, and better than everybody else. It's like, I'm making a movie, though. Aren't I amazing? Oh. So I think it was her trying to save her image. I think it was them also would have told her, you need to tone this down. And I just don't think she's capable of it. Like, I think that interview was the best she could do.
You have to remember, like, yeah, she's 22. Of course, she's just consistently... taking almost like the opposite point. It's like in all of her last interviews, she was very anti-man, very anti, the strong qualities that we love about men, like chivalry and like romance and pining courtship, and like, but she'll say in the next breath, but I make things that bring people together. It's like, well,
yeah.
we're making movies where we're connecting people. It's like, how are you able to do the mental gymnastics to completely leave all men, or like, I guess non-feminist men, cis white, like all the men that are very toxic right now? It's like, you think your movie, your career, your life is going to be a success? Well, I'll just ignore men. I think I can get to where I need to go in life with the help of any men or any men being fans of me. It's. Does she think it's just like all going to be feminists and people of color supporting her, and she'll do just fine on that? I just don't think I have to remember, she's 22. She's not thinking of.
Come on.
Doesn't know.
22 isn't an adult. You've been an adult for a long time. People used to pop out babies long before 22, get married long before 22.
That's true.
There's a very weird, and it's a very recent thing of infantilizing people long into their 20s. It's like, oh, you only become an adult at 28? What? What was the age of I can't remember what it was. It was like, the word spinster used to mean if you weren't married by 24, you were
oh god, that's everyone now.
Yeah, but this is the thing. So maybe culture isn't great now compared to where it used to be. Maybe the changes aren't for the best, and maybe infantilizing people until they're 28 and go, well, you can only make decisions and be responsible for your actions then isn't a good idea. The thing is, as I've got older, I'm like, I'm as mentally capable now as I was at 15. That's just how it works.
Really?
I don't feel like I've changed. No, I've learned more stuff. You gain from experience, and my attitudes have changed over time because of that experience. But there's nothing about like mental acuity or reason, like ability to reason, that was different from me now as a teenager.
have had more time to consume more knowledge and come up with different opinions because of it. And I think when you come down to... I think one of the benefits of tradition is that you don't need to generate everything yourself. There's a thing that you see, especially on TikTok videos and stuff, where people are like rediscovering things that have existed for thousands of years. Like there's one where it's like
Look, a wheel.
well, no, one was literally like, I only bang people I'm sexually attracted to. It's like, what?
And they'll give it a name.
Normal?
They'll give it a title. Oh, I'm sapiosexual. I'm only attracted to your mind. Wow, we've always been doing that. We just didn't call it something.
Exactly. The Zoomers are literally because they've deconstructed everything, they're literally reconstructing society from its foundations. So it's like, imagine if we had something where people would commit to one person and stay with them for the rest of their lives. We could call it something like Mirage or something. They are literally reinventing all of society. It's like, you don't have to do that. We did it.
But God, imagine if like women like didn't have to work and they really would just, it's like OnlyFans, but it's just with one man, and the one man
yes
pays for your life, and
yeah,
sexual,
you can stay
you're
at
at least
home.
sending nudes to the one man, and he takes care of you, and you don't have to worry about currying favor with like a bunch of dudes to keep you. I'm like, we had that. It was already a thing.
Yeah, and you could like stay at home and do something. I don't know what you'd do. Maybe you'd like look after whatever was produced by the fact that you were in a relationship with somebody.
Like,
I don't know. Maybe we could produce like little people that then grew up and carried on into the future.
Instead of working 9 to 5, slogging in my commute, and then dumping almost all my income into daycare, what if I just like stayed home?
Maybe I did it.
Guys, hear me out. This is a revolutionary idea. You just cut all that part out. You don't worry about making so much money because you're not spending as much money on the childcare, and then just watch your own kid, and then maybe do something small on the side, or like a side hustle, or knit hats and sell them on Etsy.
What if we didn't like buy all of this stuff that other people have made? What if in the time that I was here, I just made it myself? Rather than spending 50 quid on a t-shirt, I could just make my own t-shirt. And it was like, I guarantee you there are TikToks that are unironically saying all of this stuff. Like, and they've never heard it before.
Like they
I've
just
never
come up
seen
with
this
it.
stuff before.
Like, guys, you could own chickens and then just pick up the eggs that they lay.
Yeah. What if instead of like divorcing somebody when you're unhappy, you actually worked through your problems and stayed with them forever? Like, that's well done. I mean, rather than being unhappy singly, maybe we could just stay together forever and actually solve whatever the minor problem was that happened to be existing at that time. It's a very Zoomer thing that I'm not sure has ever happened before, and I don't know why it's happened. I think every generation has gone, well, they don't know anything, and I need to make my own mistakes to learn this stuff. But you don't have to make every mistake. You can learn a few and go, okay, probably they were probably right about everything else. I should probably just go from there. Whereas in this, it's like, no, we have to dismantle everything, start from scratch. It's bizarre.
And it's particularly true with relationships, because oftentimes the same problem will keep coming up. It doesn't matter if you break up with that person, if you're just someone who jumps around from relationship to relationship. We're human beings. We're all mirrors. Your partner, no matter who they are, is going to show you your patterns, show you what you need to work on. Like you'll keep that's what they say. Like, God will keep serving you up the same lesson until you learn it. Like your partner will keep acting as a mirror, and then until you work on that problem, it's going to keep coming up. Like that's why a lot of people have the same fight over and over again, and then maybe you can break up, you date somebody new, and okay, you'll have something else that'll come up. But I think it's one of the reasons people used to justify this whole like red pill anti-marriage trend. It's like, oh well, it's only going to be terrible. It's just so pessimistic. Like, well, the only ending for this is the woman breaks up with you and takes all your shit and robs you blind. And it's just, okay, well, you can decide to not do that. It doesn't have to be that way. You can be with someone and you both decide you're not going to screw each other over no matter how bad it gets.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the person who is like, yeah, but you shouldn't be able to. Like, I don't think you should be able to leave somebody and screw over their entire life. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, marriage, I could understand getting married and from that point onwards you split stuff, right? Because you're now a couple. I don't really get the whole, I've joined your life when you were like 35, And I own half of everything you've ever done throughout your entire life. That doesn't make sense to me. And so I think there's room for change. Then there's the entire thing of, yeah, but this institution is actually the best thing for society. It's why it's lasted this long. It's why we keep doing it. We've learned over hundreds of years that it's the best thing and therefore it should be kept. So I'm not for, let's just throw the baby out with the bathwater either kind of thing. So, but I don't think it's a conversation that society's ready for in either way, which is why we end up in this half-house kind of thing. Nobody's willing to go, well, maybe it was wrong, but we can change it. And so it's like, either this is great for me. There's a lot of this is great for me, and so I want to keep it this way and not do anything about it. And then there's a lot of this is bad for me, and so I'm just. You don't really have any choice. It's either if you want to win, you don't play, and so they just go, well, we should get rid of it then because it's not beneficial to me. Like, no, there's probably a halfway house somewhere where both people can benefit. And I get that with Rachel Zegler. There's a Benny Johnson tweet where he says she hates men, hates capitalism, hates family values. In modern society, there's a big thing where everyone loves to think they're unique. I'm so different than everybody else. You can't judge me the same as everyone else. And they just end up the same as the stereotype. And that is the stereotype of like modern Californian Hollywood kind of stories. It's the same. I hate this. I don't like this. I don't like this. This needs to change. And there's never anything beneficial to it. You never go, yeah, but maybe dads are good. It just doesn't happen. It's like all of their entertainment is horrible, horrific, awful crap. Secret Invasion literally said we should get wiped off the face of the earth. And I'm like, I don't want to see that for my entertainment. There was a guy who wanted to bring about the apocalypse. And they were like, yeah, well, maybe he's got a point.
It's like, is there a certain percentage of the population? I guess there is a certain percentage of the population that enjoy feeling sorry for themselves, enjoy blaming themselves. I guess it's like this sort of white ally, the apologetic white ally types that are just like, oh my God, just go around apologizing for anything anybody white in history has ever done. And that's how they get their self-worth, just by apologizing. It's so sad to me.
It's definitely a projection of the writers. It's like, this is how they feel. And to be honest, I could understand, like, if I had to walk around a city where I had like a poop tracker on my phone, I could understand why you're like, this is horrible. I don't want to do this anymore. And so they project that into their writing. It used to be, like if you take Tolkien, he'd been through the world wars, then he came back and he saw England and he saw what it was like. And he lived in the Shire, essentially. And so what he wrote was good versus evil. It was the good winning. It was, this is how I want the world to be, because I've seen the horror and I don't think it should be like that. Whereas I'm not sure the current writers, they've not been through struggle, and so they've only got where they live, and they basically leave their house, walk through a crap hole, go to an office, and then write. And I can understand why everything they write from that is just like horrific, because they don't like themselves, they don't like their family environments, they don't like the city, and they don't like where they work. So everything is horrible, and what is the point? And
everything is low vibrational.
Yeah, it is. They have no hope in their culture, and so they don't put any. Compare that to like Korean, where even in something like Alice in Borderland, this is a show about a guy that gets transported somewhere and is literally going through like Saw versions of games. But the entire point of it is like, no matter what happens, no matter what happens to people around you, no matter how many loved ones or people, they will sacrifice themselves to create a better, like, to save somebody. Like, they'll care about you enough to sacrifice themselves. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how bad things get, you should still continue to strive, struggle, and go forth and try and do the best you can, even in your situation. That's a great message, compared to Secret Invasion, where it's like, if aliens came down, we probably deserve it.
Oh.
Nobody wants that.
Just lay on the front lawn and like, take me.
Yeah.
Take me, I'm white, I deserve it. I'm so sorry. What shows did you watch growing up? Like, I want to get into how you became a content creator, and what was the first I want to know a little bit about, like, growing, how you grew up, but what was the first show where you realized, or movie where you're like, I need to comment on this stuff. Like, I
Oh.
What really fired you up?
It was a long time coming for me from like realizing stuff was bad compared to actually commenting it on it myself. Because there was the Doctor Who changes, which is how I found Nerdrotic, and then there was like Batwoman, which was those were the two YouTubers that got me like into this space in the first place. Like I was just watching their stuff because I was like, well, I agree with you, and you go off and find other people that agree with you, kind of thing. So I was watching it as entertainment, but I'd been watching terrible shows for a long time, and I checked out of movies over a decade ago, really. Like, I've always been more into TV, but that was only because I thought TV was better than movies. So you had like Stargate SG-1 and all that kind of stuff that went on for multiple series and could do great shows. And then you had movies where they were 2.5 hours or 90 minutes, and they couldn't do anything good in 90 minutes. Like, you couldn't keep an idea going for that long. And so I felt the film industry collapsed more, and then as streaming got more money, people from movies moved into streaming, and then they destroyed television as well. And so...
Thanks, pandemic.
Yeah, it was really great. And so I started watching people on YouTube, and in the end, you start making your own stuff. Like, I had a Batwoman video was one of the first ones that I did. It was like just me ranting for, I don't even know how long it was. But I'd split it between sort of entertainment and gaming. And then... nobody watches. Like, this is something that people like. If you want to make a YouTube channel, just start, because nobody will watch. You'll have all of these. No, I'm like, this is a good thing, right? Because you'll have all of these thoughts and worries. It's like, oh well, what if people judge me? What if I'm not very good? It's like, yeah, well, you probably won't be very good when you start, because it's practice. That's how life works. You iteratively improve over time. But secondly, no one's going to see it. No one's going to see your worst videos, so just start and keep improving, and then people will watch your good stuff. I didn't know that, so I started making videos, and then I got drunk. Happens. And I ended up... yeah, you were on about Keanu earlier, first stream with her I'd ever been on. I was off my face. I don't even know what I've said, but she probably doesn't have a high opinion of me.
No, she probably likes you even more now.
No, it was X-Ray Girl's 20k thing, but I'd just come off a stream with her, and I started her stream telling her, you probably don't want me on this stream. I've been drinking during this one. She's like, yeah, come on, it'll be amazing. It wasn't amazing. I don't know, I have no idea what happened, but it wasn't amazing. But yeah, so the way all of this started, I messaged Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers on Twitter, just going, like, I never would have had the confidence to do it if I'd not been drinking. I was like, yeah, nobody watches my stuff. If you need anyone to make videos, let me know. And for some reason,
you said this in your message. Nobody watches my stuff.
Yeah, I could probably find. I doubt I've DM'd him that much.
I mean, your channel's doing so great. I guess this was in the beginning.
This was when I first started. If I scroll back long enough,
I kind of don't trust somebody if I've never seen them drunk. That's what I miss most from pregnancy, is like, wow, I just really can't drink at all. I know someone's life is on the line, but it's like, ugh, what about me?
Yeah, I think I said I enjoy making YouTube videos and other content, but one thing I struggle with, putting so much effort into videos and then going to a channel with not many views. I was wondering if you need any people to create stuff.
Oh.
Any video. Hey, to be fair, it sounds sober. That's amazing. I wasn't.
When was this? When did you send this message?
May 25th, 2021.
Okay, wow.
At 1 a.m. So, well on the way. And yeah, and apparently Jeremy said he said, I don't even know why I checked the message. Like, my profile pic hasn't changed. It's just a squirrel in a ninja costume. So it wasn't professional.
Very ignorable. Yeah.
Yeah. But he looked at the videos and he was like, yeah, make stuff for G&G Play. So I did that, and sort of over time, we sort of entertainment and gaming, and I got shout outs from a couple of people. There was Trillium was probably the first one. The first from like I think it was Night's Watch had about 80,000 when I was doing Wheel of Time.
Wow.
And they so Shad shouted me out, and that just exploded the
Wheel of Time reviews and sort of cemented me
it was
as
a
an
shout
entertainment
out.
channel.
A shout out.
Yeah. Oh no, like unironically, Shad was like the first one that nailed where my channel is. If Shad hadn't done that, I don't know where my channel would be now. It's that kind of
Wow.
moment.
And
in
now you're
time.
both on F&T pretty regularly. Well, you're taking over for Az.
Yes,
you and
I'm
Mueller
here
are in
while
the
Az
Az
has
spot.
died, and then when he gets resurrected in January, I'll get my Friday nights back.
Imagine Az comes back, girlfriend, full head of hair, six pack. Like, my God, let's all
It's like
take a
he's
month off.
regenerated. He's
Yeah.
like Doctor Who. He looks entirely different.
Like a starfish.
Taking 20 years off him.
Like he's
This
wearing
is
a
the thing
suit and tie.
Exactly. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I want my Friday nights back." It's like, I keep seeing you post videos of you in the gym at 5 a.m. So either it's entirely flipped, or you get. If you can get up at 5 a.m. and actually
Do anything.
yes, I would die. Anyone that can get up that early and do stuff is impressive to me.
If you're getting up for anything other than a flight at 5 a.m., yeah, you deserve
Yeah,
it.
but
I used
early
to follow,
morning
like,
flights, everyone's just like, "Oh, I can't barely see."
I used to follow like Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's like one of these motivational guys, and he's one of these guys. Everyone should be waking up at like 4 or 5 a.m. every day, and then you bang out like hours of work for yourself, and you work out, and then you shower, and I'm like, I started doing that for a couple of years when I still have my day job, but it's fun. It's like fucking exhausting. Then you just
there was a study done on it. There's like 3 time periods. Everyone falls into one of them. And some people are just like naturally that early in the morning. Some people get up around midday, and some people get up better at like 5 p.m. And so we've built society around the early birds, but it's not necessarily best for everybody.
Just like in America, everything's built around the Eastern time zone, I think. Like we're kind of
Well,
we kinda
all
run
of
everything.
YouTube is. Like all the
Wow.
streams and everything are built around like, because everyone does videos and then they stream in the evening. And then if you're in like England, if you don't want to start a stream at 1 a.m., you're in trouble a lot of the time.
Oh no, that's rough. That's not really fair, I guess.
That's the way
So
everything is.
Doctor Who was one of the first things you started making content about.
No, Doctor Who, what got me into watching YouTube. So it was like
Okay.
Doctor Who and Batwoman is where I started watching Az and Nerdrotic. But it was... Well, I suppose in like a long line of things that have been destroyed. Like I know a lot of people, it's like Star Wars got destroyed. That's the big thing for me. It's like, no, it was more... the CW shows used to be good at one point. Doctor Who used to be good at like great at one point, and then and movies got destroyed. So it was like a long series of IPs being destroyed that got me into trying to make stuff. But then it was Wheel of Time from Amazon that really cemented where I was, because I there was a time I think my PC died, and so I just needed massive IPs that took a lot of time to get through in order to kill time to get another PC. And Wheel of Time is one of that. So I was reading Wheel of Time for like 30 years or something. No, 20
Wow.
years probably. 25 years until the series destroyed it. And then it became like a personal vendetta. And I've always said, they think if we just destroy this IP and move on, it's fine. No, when you destroy an IP, they remember. And so the next thing you do, they're still pissed off from the last thing you destroyed. And so it's like a snowball effect of people that don't like your stuff.
Wow, that's good. I think that's very healthy. Lajmon, thank you for the super chat. In vino veritas, in wine there is truth. Yeah, I believe this.
You know he's drunk when he actually like search up what the Latin was. It, like,
Oh,
came to him
yeah.
first.
I haven't drank. I think my last drink was September 1st. I don't know how people do this. I have to keep doing this till April, and probably after that too.
I was gonna say, I like how you got like a countdown. Yeah, it's probably not the best thing. You know, you immediately pop out the baby and just have wine on tap in the hospital.
Yeah, what I want. Ooh, like in a perfect world, yeah, nice dirty martini or like a nice frosty Cosmo. Like I was with Ryan at this conference, and he drinks so much, but it's funny. I have probably a lifetime's worth of blackmail on my phone just of recording him dancing at this after party, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna send this right to Perry Chan. He's like, no. One was him singing karaoke, not even at a karaoke place. We were at a bowling alley as part of this like after party thing, and he put karaoke up on his phone, and he just like was doing a duet with this other girl that was hanging out with us.
Oh,
I was like, it's BYO karaoke. But I recorded
yeah.
that
It's
too.
like I assumed karaoke bar. I didn't know it was just like randomly in a
No,
corner somewhere.
he needed to do it in between bowling turns. But
I
yeah.
remember, I think it was one of the first meetups that they did. Like Ryan was singing just in a random supermarket, like shopping mall or something.
I love
He had
that.
quite a good voice for what I remember. I've only ever heard him
It's
sing one.
so different. Like if you just watch his videos, you might think he's like intense or racist, all of the good things, right? But like it's nice to be hanging out with him in like a kind of a social way, because it's like you see a whole nother side of him, and like that's the real him. And but he does a great job too. He works his ass off, and I think we were all assigned roommates from Turning Point. I think because they don't want you bringing someone back to your hotel to have sex with. You're assigned.
Oh, they don't
like
want the
if you're,
scandal.
I don't
Oh,
think, which is very smart. And
yeah.
and it's like, if you're getting a free hotel room, like I don't care. I'll stay with another chick, sure. And Ryan was assigned, I think, Chase from the Sovereign Bra. People know him from the Whatever podcast, and he ended up just getting his own room because he's like, I'm going to do videos and stuff. But
Mm.
and then I was like, oh yeah, girls are so different. Like I was excited to be my roommate. I was like, oh, this is like freshman year of college. I was like Instagramming her in advance. I was like, wee.
Yeah, I'd be the same. Like, I just want my own room. I'm not sharing with someone I barely know. It's this is the thing though. It's like, especially in movies, they like to treat men and women as if they're just the same. There's no differences whatsoever. Like everybody knows this is not true who has spoken to a person in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, okay, this is gonna be someone else that will probably have seen my boobs. You know what I mean? Like I was like, there's a Venn
Sounds like you keep a
diagram.
list.
I do. People who've seen my boobs, it's like all my good girlfriends, especially now that I'm pregnant. I end up just showing all my girlfriends, like, look at this, like, whoa. Want to see something scary?
I tuned into X-Ray Girl's stream with Zia, where they were just it was supposed to be a Doctor Who stream. At no point when I watched it did they talk about Doctor Who. Not even for a second. It was just about Zia's boobs for like an hour.
Wow, what's more disappointing, or like a stream entitled Zia's boobs and all they're talking about is Doctor Who? I think people would be more upset about that.
Especially, at least this was about like the well, it was like the reboot era, but it was still like the Tennant era of Doctor Who. If they were talking about Jodie Whittaker, that'd be the worst.
I love that kind of this all started with you just randomly messaging Jeremy, because for months before we've been a regular on FNT for a while now, but I just always hear how the guys talk about you and how great you are. And then I watch your content. I'm like, oh yeah, you are fucking awesome at this. So it's very cool to see how the sort of fellowship like build each other up, and truly like cream will ultimately rise to the top. You just gotta, hang in there.
It's weird when you think back to, I don't know whether it's just me or like, but when you do a channel, you sort of think of the big moments. And for me, it was the shout out. So it was like Shad shout out. Then I was doing Rings of Power, and the views were off the charts. So I was doing like killing myself doing a video a day, which I never do. And then there was one where the quartering shouted me out, and that just skyrocketed the channel. So I went from, I think it was 2.4 thousand to 10,000 in like a week. Oh no, more than 10,000 in a week. Because I remember Drunk 3PO was like, you're going to hit 10k before the end of the week. I'm like, no, I'm stupid. Like that would be 5 times where I am now. It's like, oh, no, you will. So there's like big moments where you can either take advantage of them and sort of keep hitting the same topic and try and get something going there, or wait and stop and like kind of waste it. And I think a lot of it is, and it's a very interesting thing with YouTube. It's not that shout outs will make it. It's that if you get a shout out, you need to capitalize on it and give people a reason to stay. And so I'm fully on you need to
put as much effort into your videos early on as you do later on. Like, the technology doesn't matter, the cameras, the mic matters more than the camera, but things like cameras and stuff that won't help, but you need the audience to keep coming back, and so you have to constantly keep giving them a reason to. And I think this is what Hollywood's missed. The actors and everyone think that the studios pay them. Well, that's where my money comes from, that's where my monthly check comes from, so I only have to keep whatever executive or whatever company is happy. It's like, no, if people don't go and watch your stuff, your career dies. That's what happens, or should happen.
Right. And Zegler, she sounds like, well, it's just between me and the executives, or me and whoever's casting me for this. That's the only people that matter. And it's like, you forget, like, do you just, maybe they're just not out with people. Like, maybe they're just not meeting real people. They're just so in a bubble.
The bubble's definitely a part of it. I think the other issue is, we're at a time in Hollywood now where if your movie fails, you still get more roles. It's bizarre to me. If you write something, there are writers who made absolute flops that nobody went to see, and they get promoted to something else. It's so weird. But wow. I made a video about it. It was the difference in morality that people have. The traditional morality used to be about, you are good because of what you do. Whereas now the Hollywood morality is, you are good because of what you are. And so it doesn't matter if you make something awful. That's your deed. What really matters is that you're this category or this category, and we need that on a checklist, so we're going to employ you anyway. And if you go through that, you begin to dissociate what you do with your success in life, because that's all you've ever known. And you can't have that, because it stops people trying. If they think they can coast by, everybody's lazy. I'm incredibly lazy. But if you reward people and they're lazy, they're going to get worse.
What's the motivation? Yeah.
Yeah, you need to constantly reinforce the fact that quality actions and deeds result in quality outcomes. The moment you dissociate those and split them, you're just going to degenerate and rot, which is what I think's happened in Hollywood.
Matthew Hammond, I like this crossover. Thank you, Matthew. Oh, and it's Frank again. Let Muffin in and out, in or out, out/in. Yes, she was barking at the door, and then she got the hint. The dogs. I love the dogs. Okay, so as far when you say, which I love, you have to give your audience a reason to keep coming back, which is something Hollywood is not really doing. They seem very disconnected from their audience. How driven do you feel to make content that, like, this is getting a ton of views, a lot of great positive comments? How torn do you feel, like, okay, I want to go into this direction versus the topics or shows or movies you yourself genuinely like, or is there much crossover?
I think that essentially, because there's two groups of thinking. I always remember there's from like well over a decade ago, there was a guy who was asked at a con, how do you think that your audience can relate to you? And he went, I don't think they should. I'm better than them. I don't think they should relate to me at all. And the guy's career died. I'm like, yeah, as it deserves to, because you forgot who you are. Like, I will never let go of the fact that I'm just a guy in his front room talking to a camera. It's what it is. And so when you come from that perspective, you realize that you're not like special. You're essentially a court jester. And actors think they are so special. You saw it in Rachel Zegler's interview. It is they're just sat at home, whereas I'm making a movie. I'm doing something so much better than they are.
I represent a community. I am this community. Ugh.
Yeah. And I see it far more as like, you're a court jester. You are there to be laughed at and entertain people, and you exist specifically to do what they want. And so, while there's a crossover of what you're interested in, because if you weren't interested in, you couldn't talk to it and make good content in the first place, it's about finding that crossover in the... I have no interest in Aquaman. I would not go and see Aquaman if I wasn't making videos on it, but because that's what people want to see, that's what I'm going to go and do. And so, for me, it's more about the type of content I make rather than what it's about. Like, I like entertainment. It's just I wouldn't watch that specific entertainment. But what I really enjoy is making the commentary videos. I like the sort of the banter of it, the back and forth, the argumentation kind of thing. And so I like the style of content, and the topic is just whatever people want to see, essentially.
Okay. So you officially started your YouTube channel when? Are you one of these pandemic YouTubers?
It was July, June or July. Well, no, actually, because I would have been making videos before. I messaged Jeremy in May, so I probably started properly in like June or July of 2021. I think I'd made a few before, but it wasn't serious.
Yeah. Any of your videos what of your videos have gotten the most backlash or negative comments?
Oh, I don't know about that, actually. There was a few early. The gaming sphere as a whole is very one way or the other. If you don't like a certain game, and there's also been the odd actor. There was a Breaking Bad actor who said something, and there was a lot of negative comments about that. But those comments were mainly, I was trying to pitch something in a certain way, and I don't think it made it clear enough with the angle I was going for, so they thought I was attacking the actor. No, they were accusing me of not knowing that it was a character. It's like, yeah, this may be a character, but it's also what he thinks because he said it over here. And so I think a lot of those were my inability to explain it properly rather than disliking what I'd done. I find whenever you start a new series and you do the premiere review, that's what takes the most backlash. Because now, there isn't that much backlash for saying the Marvels is trash.
Right.
Because it is.
You're not the
right?
first. Yeah.
Yeah. It like, this stuff isn't controversial anymore, but when a new series starts, there tends to be a pattern where people will, because I used to do it, right? You would, if a new series came out, there was a high chance that it could be good, so you'd give it several episodes before you decided. And now, because I've seen so much of it, I'm like ahead of the pattern recognition thing, whereas some people are still not, I'll try it and give it a chance. I'll give it to episode 4 before I decide. And so they see you reviewing it badly at episode 1 and like, no, just give it a go. No, we're just building into the characters. And so I think it's more at different stages of realization rather than anything else.
Yeah, so you're experienced enough to know what is coming down the pike just from the first episode, and then people will jump up your ass being like, you're not giving it enough of a chance. And you're like, no, I've done this a lot.
Yeah, I think I have a bit of a different, because there's a lot of people as well that say, I just want a good story. But I think a good story comes down, because anyone can punch someone in the face, right? Like, what makes the John Wick movies good? Is it just punching someone in the face? Well, yes, but there's still also other story elements that make you feel and care about the different characters. And so I think it's more about the values and the emotions you feel when watching something that make something stay with you, rather than just someone punching someone in the face. A lot of that's been said about Rebel Moon, that there's loads of action scenes, but because nobody cares about the characters, it doesn't leave a lasting impression, and so nobody likes it anymore. And I've long thought that it's not, because if you think that people just need to write good stories, then the current people in Hollywood should be able to do that. You just think they're being lazy or something, like they're not really trying, and I don't think that's what it is. I think they have values and sort of ideologies which are so different to the audience, they physically cannot make something that people like. Because they are putting their values and their emotions and their feelings into their work, but it repulses the audience. There's a few people that like it, but it repulses most people. And so, unless you clear out those people and hire new people with the same values as the audience, it will never get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think some people are giving it a go. It's like, well, maybe this could be good. If we just write it a bit better, if we just stick to the academic hero's journey a bit more, maybe it'll be good. And I think it comes down to your opinion of what makes a good story. Is it just arbitrary writing and like the situation, or is it what it makes you feel when you're watching it? Because if it's the latter, I don't think anyone in Hollywood that believes in that kind of stuff can. And you can spot that via the language, the actors, the casting, the interviews, and you know all that before the series even come out.
Yeah, like Godzilla is something that I think of. That comes to mind when I think of like, how did the movie make you feel? I just was like, oof. I just lost track of time. It was great storytelling. I really cared about the actors, and it was just so refreshing to see something good.
That's the thing. But again, it's a foreign movie. They have
Yep.
different values. They have traditional values that most people in the West will associate with. And I keep coming back to that being the main issue, that Hollywood is in its own little bubble full of people who believe something that nobody else can, because they've literally thrown out all of history and reinvented their own values and moral systems. And that's why they think, because they don't just think that the audience is, oh, well, you just didn't like this one. No, they genuinely think that they're horrible, bigoted people.
Yeah, they think they're
who
stupid
should be hated.
and uneducated and uncultured and hate gays.
Well, exactly. And that's not a, oh, well, you just disagreed with me. That's a moral opinion. And so it means they come from a different moral view than the audience in the first place.
Are you doing YouTube full time at this point? Do you have and you
Yes.
don't have to say what it is if you do have another job, but at what point, I guess, did you give up your day job to do this?
For me, it was after Rings of Power, because that did so well. It did so well to a point where it's like, okay, if this crashes, and it does, because it always does, then I'll still be okay. Like, you can look at any kind of YouTube thing, and you go through peaks and troughs as
Right.
topics and trends go through. And so I wanted to make sure that it wasn't, because from February to that year to like August, it was kind of just going up. But it was always, Rings of Power was there for months because they advertised it so early, and they kept they kept crashing their face into a wall all the time. Everything they released got
Wow.
worse and worse and worse. And so afterwards, I was like, okay, let's hope. And then it was like, okay. So that's when I went full time properly, and yeah, luckily it carried on. There was
That's awesome.
a
Did you
few
tell
times
people-
since-
Did you tell people that you were working with about like that you were doing YouTube, like, and as you were like building your channel up, did your friends and family know, or did you tell people that you worked with? And I find that like every job I've ever had, like it's always been a sticky situation when I start letting my personality out or like telling people I do comedy. It's like the beginning of the end, really.
Do you get much of, I do comedy, okay, make me laugh. Like, it
Always.
sounds like a demand. Yeah, tell me a joke then. Prove it.
It is. It's like we don't demand that of anybody else's profession. Like, I'm a gynecologist. Well, get down there. Tell me what you see.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think I mentioned it to my dad, like, during Wheel of Time, but it was more like, you know, I'm doing this. He's like, okay. It seemed a bit more like a hobby.
Mhm.
I didn't tell my mum for a long time, and then I'd already been doing it full time for a long time after that, and I think it was like a few months ago, and
Wow.
well, yeah, that was the thing. It was what was it? I can't remember what it said. I don't think I was going to tell her, but then I started saying, she's like, "Oh, you're doing this? Are you doing this? It's doing this." It's like, you know, not really much anymore. So, and then I went, you know, I've started something else, and that's doing really well. And she was like, it's like, no, it's doing really well. And her first words, and I'm not making her first words were, "It's not illegal, is it?" Like, that is literally the response that I had.
Not selling pictures of your bum, are you?
No, it
No, Mom,
was
it's just feet.
yeah, it's the way it goes. I don't know if she knows my channel or not, actually, at the moment.
So your parents are not super online.
No, neither of them. No, my dad's a bit more tuned into tech, but my mom, not at all. I doubt she would have watched YouTube until like maybe a year ago or something. Probably didn't know what YouTube was before.
Do you have any
It's,
siblings?
Yeah, I've got a brother. He not much into tech either, really. I was always the tech person. Like, I remember when it was like in high school, we had a computer. I was the one that used it. I was the one that started gaming on it and stuff. Nobody else really cared. It was one of those things where it starts off as a family computer, and then it just becomes yours.
Yes. Oh God, I remember during the AOL days, to feel like you'd out yourself, and it'd be like midnight. I'd be logging on, and I'd just try to do it secretly, but you couldn't because it'd be like beeper, beeper, and then like
Yes.
you just
Yeah.
wake up. Well, now everyone knows I'm about to get into this chat room.
I mean, it does have the unfortunate side effect that you become tech support for everyone else in your
Yes.
family. It's like, I bought this thing. It's like, well, you never asked me, should you buy this thing? Yeah, well, I bought it anyway, and it doesn't work. It's like, yeah, that's probably why you should have asked me if you needed to buy it in the first place.
Does your brother follow you at all? Do your parents generally kind of like take what you do seriously and respect it, or they just still feel like it's kind of a hobby for you?
I know my dad watches me. I don't think anybody else does. It's probably one of those things, because I think especially from that side of the family, it would have been more, yeah, I'm doing this. It's like, yeah, okay. Probably got a real job though. Like that, it's that kind of attitude of definitely wouldn't be taken seriously. I see on Twitter all this. It's a very common attitude, actually. Whenever anybody posts something, it's like, oh, well, I've got this problem, I've got this strike. There's always people in the comments like, you should get a real job. It's like, well, you know.
You're like, I've had a real job, and I worked really hard to make this my job. Yeah.
Spent my entire life trying to avoid a real job. I gotta say, I'm lazy. I don't know how I ended up here. It just kind of happened.
I've gotten many strikes in the regular working world before. It's called getting fired. So I'm very familiar with the regular job.
Oh.
How did you get the name Disparu, or is it short for?
Oh, this was from Alias with Jennifer Garner, which is weird. It's a J.J. Abrams TV show. It's one of the first he did. I know he'd done one before. I don't know whether he did more than that. But ran for multiple series, and I loved it as a teen. I mean, it's got Jennifer Garner in wigs and skimpy clothes. What was there not to like as a teen in the first place? Like every time, she just looked like an entirely different person. And even had Tarantino act in it in the second season because he was a big fan of the first one. So a lot of people liked it in the time. And she's like a secret agent, but she works for a place called SD6, which is Section Disparu 6.
Oh.
So it comes from that. I used to... It was like I used it as like a gaming handle. I used to watch other stuff first. You have a different name first. But it would all be taken. And I find this is taken a lot less. It's just French. Section Disparu 6, in the show, they says it stands for the section that doesn't exist. But in French, I think it more means like invisible or disappeared.
Ooh, mysterious. Rhapsody, thanks for the super chat. Disparu's videos are so articulate and loquacious.
Yeah, I don't know that one. Like, I've not used that in a video. I'd have to look that one up myself.
Let's look it up. Okay, loquacious, very talkative, garrulous, which is another word I have to look up.
Yeah, tending to talk a great deal. Yeah, I can certainly do
Yes,
that.
garrulous, given to excessive and often trivial or rambling talk, tirelessly talkative, wordy and rambling. Oh, we like that though.
I like what there's I like going through the reviews because a lot of the reviews the journalists try and sound like intelligent. They try and sound like they're I'm actually above the normal moviegoers, and so they use a lot of weird words that I like looking up and using in something else. Yeah, it means disappeared.
Disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably a bit of an artistic license to say the section doesn't exist, but it was it worked in the show. I just thought it was a cool word. I didn't even really know.
It is cool. I'm glad I know.
I
what
get
it means
DMs
now.
and stuff in French. Like I'll be playing a game and people will DM me in French. I'm like, sorry, I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know. Something about a croissant.
Yeah.
Do you get recognized a lot out and about?
No, the first time I got recognized was at the London meetup that we had with Gary and everyone. That was straight. Like, never been recognized.
When was that? Was it September?
September or August, I think. Yeah, I think it was September.
What was that like? Because my first meetup, it was so overwhelming. I was just like,
oh, yeah.
It was so incredible just to see everybody and meet people. I was like, wow.
Well, this is the thing. I'd never been recognized before, and then we were walking along the street, and people would stop the group because they'd notice somebody, but they always recognized Gary. It was Gary that they stopped all the time. It's like, okay, you expect that. Everyone knows Gary.
It's the beard.
But then at one point, we were standing outside a comic shop, and people were like walking to work and stopping people. It was like, oh, yeah, I know you, and you're... I think I've seen you somewhere before. And then they talk to Gary. It's like, yeah, fair enough.
Like, thanks.
But then the first one was, there was a guy, I don't know, it was his son or something, stopped me. And they were the first people that knew me and like stopped for me. And then went, yeah, I think I know Gary. But sorry, it was the first time. It was the other way around. Yeah, it was like, finally. But no, it was great because it's very easy in YouTube. I said before about it's like, I don't know, people relate because I know better. It's very easy to just be on YouTube. You're sitting in your front room. You see everything on a computer screen. All you see is numbers. So you see a chart going up, you
Mm.
see random things, you see text, but linking that text to people is an entirely different experience. And I think it's very important that you stay that way. You make sure everyone's being, because otherwise you end up at Rachel Zegler like attacking people, and it's like, no, you're a jester. And I don't know whether it's an English thing specifically, but you should know your place and you should stay in your place.
The nature of what she does is keeps her separate from people. And
she's in Hollywood, goes from set
I almost
to set,
feel bad.
entourage.
I don't feel bad, but I almost feel bad.
But yeah, I think the meetups was awesome. Talking to people was great. And I don't even know how to describe it. I don't think there's anything else like it. And I can understand why, if that was your entire world, you would develop an ego. 100%.
Oh, if the meetups were your entire world, or meaning like Hollywood.
Like, let's say you were in Hollywood, so you never met people normally, and you just went from set to set. You had people that were getting you coffee. You had people there to look after you. You had your own trailer and stuff. You were like the prime thing on set all the time. And then you also went to red carpet events, and there's people waiting for you or want to greet you.
You're constantly getting your makeup and hair done. Yeah,
Yes,
you're not like
exactly.
sitting in the back of a bus being like, oh God.
Yep. Like, everyone is there to serve you all the time. They're all there for you all the time. And then you go back to your luxury mansion, and then you do all over again. It's different here, where it's like, you go to London, and then you come back to your house. And then nobody recognizes you for like a year again. So, you know, there's a coming down to earth again afterwards, which I think is important.
It's very important. Ben and Cider, very clever. My favorite Disparu quote is, the only time I care what someone does with their own genitals is if they're pointing them at mine.
Yeah, that's an old quote, that is. I can't remember what video that was. I remember saying it.
That's a great quote.
It's true, though. It's like, I'm very much you can do whatever you want in your own house, I don't care, but it's called a private life for a reason. And I don't want you to see it doing on the street, and I don't want it thrust in my face. I think that's a fair compromise.
Unless that's what you wanted. Unless you met them at the bar, that was the agreement.
Well, maybe not in the bar, in front of everybody else.
In the bathroom, yes.
Yeah, at least wait.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, so what properties are you most excited about to watch, to review, and what are you not excited about?
Oh,
I guess Aquaman. You already answered Aquaman.
There's Rebel Moon and Aquaman. This is the thing, that you go through times where there's nothing available, and then Rebel Moon and Aquaman both drop on the same day. Seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah, those are both coming out, I think, this week. Gosh, maybe tomorrow. Oh
yeah.
My God, I have to go. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. Great.
Oh, I mean, it's different with the time zones, because Rebel Moon is releasing evening for you, so it's like 2 a.m. or something here. And I can't get to Aquaman until Friday anyway, so I'm going to end up watching them both on Friday. It's going to be horrific. But even from like a competition perspective, you'd like, well, maybe we shouldn't launch our thing on the same day as another major property. That seems like a good idea. They don't care.
Yeah,
It's
why
like,
don't
no.
they care? Although they'll move stuff around for Taylor Swift.
Well, Taylor Swift's like the biggest thing in the world right now.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Taylor Swift. I've probably heard her songs like in a supermarket or something, but apart from that, not really. And then you suddenly find out, oh yeah, she's going to be a billionaire by the end of this tour, and she's earning like $30 million a show or something. It was insane.
It's really insane. I think she's so boring. I think and they're really just trying to push this relationship with her and this football guy. What's his name? But the football guy's also the biggest shill for Pfizer, and it's like, ugh, it's just so obviously very, very much contrived, and it's just I think Hollywood, they just the public relations people just get together, go, oh, we're gonna have this person date this person. I'm convinced that's how Pete Davidson got all of his relationships.
Yep. Oh, the thing with Pete Davidson is, like, if you were going to choose someone to do that with, why would it be Pete Davidson? Like,
because you were mad at your parents.
No, but from the PR perspective, wouldn't you want it to be like somebody that people actually looked up to, rather than Pete? Do you really want a guy who's like, oh, why are you with him? Like, is that the response you want?
He was famous just for being with a lot of high-end chicks.
Yeah,
he was engaged to Ariana Grande, so that gave him a lot of clout for a while.
But he's repeated it time and time and time again. Like every like couple of months, he's like, "Oh, she's with Pete Davidson again." Okay, fair enough. And then get with Kate Beckinsale and all kinds of people. So I don't know. I think it doesn't seem like a good PR move to me. It seems like a great PR move for him, but not for the people he's with.
I think the P in PR stands for penis in Pete's case. That's the rumor, at least.
Well, what was it? There was a guy. I can't remember who it was, but it was like some celebrity was doing an interview over here, and he says, "You know, you hear rumors in Hollywood." And he says, he kind of paused. I don't know whether I should say it, but he's called Justin Trouser Snake for a reason. I was like, "Oh, okay, that was information I needed to know." But
Oh my god! Like, gee, thanks. Oh, Matthew Hammond, has Disparu seen the trailers for American Fiction and the American Society of Magical Negroes? These movies are an interesting contrast.
Like American Fiction, is that the Civil War one, or I don't know, American Fiction?
I wonder if it is.
The other American Society. It was one of those films where like can't believe that this got made, and even if it did get made, I'm surprised it ran with that title. Because to me, it's just a Spanish word for black, so I don't care. But I know it's a sensitive thing in American culture, and so I'm surprised they made the movie about it.
So American Fiction. God, I don't think I've seen this at all.
Oh no, I have seen that trailer. Yeah, he's like, the more stupid I am, the more money I make. I can imagine that happens.
This guy was in Westworld.
Yeah. He starts making money because he's one thing, and they want him to act like stereotypical. So he starts to write like he's an idiot, and they keep giving him more stuff. And so the more he plays into the identity that they expect of him, the more money he makes, the more he gets promoted. And he's like, I just want to write good stuff. I don't want to do this. But they keep paying him.
That seems actually really interesting.
We've seen this in multiple places. It was in She-Hulk. She-Hulk has an entire story where they hire her because she's She-Hulk, and she wants to be hired because of her own talent. And she's like, yeah, but those men never had to like put up with this. It's like, yeah, because they got hired because they were good rather than their identity. She's like, yeah, that's really bad. But then her mates like start saying, yeah, but you've got this massive office, you've got all this money, you've got all this power. She's like, yeah, actually I quite like this. And I just think that was a real-time case of like what the writers had. That they have been promoted because of what they are, not what they do, and they really wish they got promoted because of what they do. Like, humiliates everybody involved. Yeah. And they're just like, I want you to respect me because of what I can create, but on the other hand, I'm getting paid millions of dollars, I'm just going to accept it.
Right. On the other hand, I do really like money. Darn.
Yes. And so I can understand those kind of movies, and I think that's the reality of Hollywood leaking through. But then you have the other one where it's like the magical thing. I think that's just somebody who hates people making a movie. And he's like, everybody thinks this. I was like, no, actually, that was just you, mate.
Nope, just you. Really hate white people. We get it. But we'll see. I guess we'll see how many people come out and see the Magical Negro movie. I'll be excited to keep making fun of it. My God, the time has flown by, and I am sorry to see you go, Disparu. Where can people find you and follow you other than, oh yes, and you're involved with Geeks and Gamers Tabletop. They should all check that out as well.
Ah, yes. The D&D role playing. It was great fun.
The first time I ever played D&D on Geeks and Gamers Tabletop, I had no idea. I had never played before. I didn't know that you're supposed to like explain what you're doing and why, and I was so stupid. Like it was, but it was really funny though. They were very patient with me.
Yeah, I remember that. And like Arudai is the kind of DM where it doesn't really matter what you do; he'll make it fit anyway. And so,
yeah,
even when you come in and just start talking crap at everybody, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to insult you. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what people wanted. So, no, you did well.
He's like, oh, I guess you've come back to life now. Suddenly, like they were supposed to be dead. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what?
No, I think he said that he was Arudai was talking about his favorite episodes, and he mentioned that as I think it was his favorite episode.
Oh my
that he'd ever done.
God!
So yeah, Arudai was really pleased with what you did.
Wow! All right, I'll have to come back. Let's see.
Oh, he would be ecstatic, I'm sure.
Okay. Wow, that's what I'm going to do. Yes, follow Disparu 2 and Geeks and Gamers Tabletop on Twitter and YouTube. Anything else?
No, that's it. If you're interested in entertainment, follow me on YouTube. And D&D tabletop, or just like watching us insult each other, that's also in tabletop.
That's always a good time. Thank you so much for your time, Disparu. What a great chat. One more last minute super chat from Xander's Rants. Chrissy, I just binged Advanced Geeks and Gamers, or ADV Geeks and Gamers.
Oh, yeah, that was the one you were in. That was the campaign you were in.
Okay. Wish you were in it. More hope you show up to annoy Disparu in Frost Maiden if it didn't happen already. I will have to make my triumphant return. Thank you, Xander. Thank you, Disparu. Thank you to everybody in the chat who had nice comments. This was good. Everyone was very well behaved. Mark the Cyborg. I'm on that too.
Yes. Yeah, he was. He was apparently picked it up very quickly. One of the great things about D&D is if you play games, it's basically the same thing. So Mark came in like he'd been playing it for years and just started annihilating everything.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you all next time.